So we've got Howard Stern. He had spoken up about what happened, about his opinions on what Kirstie Alley and the passing of Kirstie Alley. It says Howard Stern floats anti-vax theory over Kirstie Alley's death. Maybe she didn't go to the doctor soon
Howard
enough.
Stern is always just going off about something.
He really
I
does.
find him very annoying. Here's exactly what he said about Kirstie Alley. She died on Monday of colon cancer, and he just pulled this
Rest
theory
in
out of
peace.
his ass. He said, what freaked me out
that a
about...
pun? She died of colon cancer and he pulled this out of his ass?
Yes. What freaked me out about Kirstie Alley is that she's 71, and I know to some people that's old, but to me that's young, and they're saying it was a sudden kind of cancer. Maybe this was a theory this morning we were all discussing. Maybe she didn't go to the doctor soon enough when she wasn't feeling well, but that's a story made up by us. I mean, there's no facts behind it. And Kirstie Alley is known for having, said things critical of the vaccine. In October 21, she said, "Get the vaccines and boosters, I don't care, but until they can prevent me from getting COVID or prevent you from getting it, I won't be getting it and will ignore mandates to get it. Seems fair to me." That's a pretty measured response, and Howard Stern is known for being extreme about like COVID fear mongering.
I also want to point out that this is like the future of any shock jock who has hot takes when they're younger and just turns into a crotchety old man when they're older.
Yeah, he's completely like forfeited his brand that he's this off the wall shock jock, politically incorrect, anti-establishment. He's totally given that up in favor of basically being the same as Mark Ruffalo, as George Takei, as Rob Reiner. All of these people are the same. They all are just one big hive mind.
I also want to point out that one of the things that he seems to ignore in this relatively hot take is that you couldn't go to a doctor for regular stuff early on in COVID. People weren't getting cancer treatments because they couldn't go to doctors on a regular basis, right?
People have also, since things have died down, been denied organ transplants or the ability to donate organs because of their vaccination status, which is crazy. I think that mostly this is just grotesque that he's even commenting on what her cause of death was instead of just saying like RIP and moving on. Other people were criticizing her after her death for having supported Trump, which is just, again, like it's grotesque to point that out about anyone when their body isn't even cold yet. It's extremely tacky and gross.
Well, it's also, I can give him the benefit of the doubt in this way. Like they have the same birthday apparently.
So he's jealous of her.
So and she was
actually, he has the birthday now. Am I right?
She was apparently she was like one of the better guests on that show. And maybe the idea here is that maybe they had somewhat of a friendship back in the day. And the problem is he's a he's a front-facing personality, right? So he's working through something that is both public and private at the same time in public.
Well, Brett, I understand that you're a contrarian, but I don't want to give Howard Stern the benefit of the doubt here.
I'm not trying to be contrary. I'm
we
just saying,
we know that
the
he's
best
an
in everyone.
absolute nut when it comes to all of this COVID stuff. He is extremely enthusiastic about the vaccine, to say the least. And then other people were commenting on her relationship with Scientology. So Kirstie Alley was a Scientologist. One of the commenters on this said, "I suspect Scientology is to blame. Scientology despises the medical profession and espouses mind over matter when it comes to physical and mental health. Both Kirstie Alley, who had colon cancer, and Kelly Preston, who had breast cancer, were members of Scientology. They were diagnosed in the late stages of cancer. Both died from diseases that are eminently treatable and or curable when diagnosed early. So you can't help but wonder
if she wasn't getting screened because of her religious beliefs.
What if Scientology is the world's largest Trump-supporting religion, and that is the only way to cancel Scientology?
Then where is Tom Cruise in all of this?
Then they'll come out and be against Scientology, which I believe is very much a cult. And I know Brett is a Scientology apologist.
It is a cult, and like maybe there is a valid.
I told you that would happen.
It's a valid concern that we should be able to talk openly about the influence of Scientology in Hollywood, especially, but maybe not do that by invoking Kirstie Alley's name just in the hours and the days after she died. I think that that's sleazy, especially if you're a public figure doing that. So another person who commented is Leah Remini, or is it Leia?
It's Leah Remini, I think.
Remini. She's also a former Scientologist. She left the Church of Scientology in 2013, and she actually went on Howard Stern's show in 2015, and she's denounced Scientology very strongly since then. She claimed that her and Kirstie Alley were not allowed to interact if they crossed paths because she had been shunned by the Church of Scientology. And Kirstie Alley is like publicly disagreed with and bashed Leah Remini and she's like called her a bigot because of the things that she said about Scientologists. So here's what Remini said to the Rolling Stone recently after Kirstie Alley's death. While it has been reported that Kirstie sought conventional cancer treatment, which gave her a fighting chance, the majority of Scientologists don't seek treatment until it's too late. Scientologists are convinced they can cure themselves of diseases like cancer. It's one of the more sinister things they promise, and because Scientology claims to be an exact science, not a faith, its members are brainwashed into believing these false claims, as guarantees. So, I mean, possibly, but what's the value in speculating when it's an individual?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I like you said, to me, it's more about how quickly they did it and the lack of tact behind it, especially if you're somebody who knew them, even moderately well. It should give you pause.
The stuff about her being MAGA was just like completely beyond the pale. Like that should not be
shouldn't matter
discussed.
It shouldn't matter.
It's
at
worth
all.
noting that like when people die suddenly, people who are against the vax are quick to be like, oh, interesting, did you get the vaccine?
Yeah.
So it happens on both sides. So we can't
Yeah.
really have the decorum argument, right?
Even I've made like it was probably safe.
Well, it's different though, because like, are you going on this show or are you going on, you know, IRL and like saying this person died today? I think it's because they had this medical treatment and blah, blah, blah. Or I think it's because of their religion, which says this and that. Like, it's different when you're talking about it in generalities versus an individual, especially if you personally knew them. Another thing is like these tweets where people are like, R.I.P. Kirstie Alley. I didn't agree with everything she said, but you know, she was a great actress and whatever. Like, no one reading your tweet that says R.I.P. is assuming that you agree with everything that dead person has ever said.
Yep.
Like, no one assumes that just because you say rest in peace, you stand with every decision and every opinion this person has ever made. That's ridiculous. They're just virtue signaling.
That only works if like the point of that comment is to say like we sparred on occasion and we fought, but we got along, you know, despite the fact that we didn't see eye to eye in a lot of things. If that was like a main part of a personal relationship you had with someone, that makes sense. Otherwise, it doesn't really.
But if you didn't know this person, it's just like, why do you feel the need to point that out?
Also, I want to say like when is the right time? Like this is something that you just have to learn like in as an adult.
But
like,
celebrities have no knowledge of how to interact socially. They're extremely maladjusted people, so of course they don't know that.
So when would it have been fair? Like maybe she comes back up in the news 6 months from now because of something to do with her her estate comes out of probate or something. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like when is it fair to at least talk about this stuff again? I mean, I think it's ghoulish either way, but
I mean, the other argument is that like it's not ghoulish and you're allowed to speculate it about, you know, cause of death or whatever from the beginning, which people do all the time, right? When Aaron Carter died, people speculated about what the cause was. I think generally Howard Stern is just like someone who rubs a lot of people the wrong way. The Raps headline that says maybe she didn't go to the doctor soon enough seems more like a jab at Scientology than it does on like the whole vaccine front. But I don't know. It's sad that she's gone because the loss of life is tragic, but also, you know, it's not like her family is going to come out either way and tell us, you know,
but it also feels like
more than they have.
One of these things where it's like there's no escaping it, like from anybody. If this is going to happen with Kirstie Alley, it's going to happen with any celebrity of any mild amount of note, and you're kind of trapped in this world now where even the most unimportant of person, I'm not saying that about her, but I'm saying like even the most banal of personalities will be dragged by someone for some reason when they die because somebody disagreed with something they said on Twitter 10 years prior.
This is another reason like I feel uncomfortable about dead people's social media accounts remaining up and maybe they should all have a memorialized status like on Facebook.
Yeah, Facebook has that.
So that people can't use it like Kathy Griffin did on her own dead mother's Twitter account, like using it to troll Elon Musk and failing and just looking like an absolute freak.
Well, and like when Kirstie Alley's family posted their announcement,
Yeah.
like it was phrased like, my mother has passed away. So people who didn't look down to the end where it says her kid's name were like, why is she telling us about her mom? Oh, it's actually her. Like, there is some strange. On the other hand, like, her kids aren't famous in the way she was. So if you're a fan of hers, like, you would look to her Twitter account first. Like, I don't know that our sense of decorum or understanding of what the proper etiquette is when announcing one's death has caught up to the social media era. And I don't know.
Change.
I will over time, for sure.
What is considered acceptable will change over time as we figure out what to do with our social medias as we pass. What's going to happen? Like, like when you have like one of those, like either you're a boomer, a set of boomer old people, or you're a guy or a girl who has cheated and stayed with the person where you have joint accounts. What happens if one of the people in the joint account dies? Do you just like casually remove one of the names from the joint account?
I don't know. I've had some high school classmates who have passed and their parents had to like figure out how to get into their Facebooks and stuff like that because they didn't want them to like accidentally get hacked or like for their photos to be used for a catfish or stuff like that. And like, you know, in that sense, like kind of a terrible chore to do after you lose someone.
Then let me ask you guys this. What do you want to happen to your social media when and if you pass? Maybe you live forever. Who knows?
Gosh, I don't know.
What's your plan? I haven't thought about it.
I kind of want to post like leave like funny messages for like
like schedule posts for the future.
Well, no, like
you're gonna put it in all of your drafts
in the drafts. Yeah, like leave like leave like roast notes for my brother in the drafts, since that's how me and him communicate usually.
I like that your plan is that your older brother is gonna outlive you.
Probably.
Very so dark today. It's so dark.
Very likely. But like the point is like, you know, or like, you know, assuming one day if I have kids, you leave something nice to your kids in the social media sphere. I don't know.
That's kind of a nice way to make sure like you always have said something nice to them at the end, right? Like people talk about like finding notes from their loved ones or like hearing a voicemail
finding
like,
a book
that's left before the person dies, and it's like, oh, I just really like you.
Finding out your mom bought a book called What Happens When Your Grown Children Disappoint Them.
Welcome to Therapy Crisis with Brett.
But like or like
Identity Crisis.
Yes, there we go. I'm just
all I know is I don't want people logging into my account and posting anything. I don't want to be Chadwick Boseman, please, especially if it's for advertising a product that I was not a part of. That's scary. I don't want to be I don't want to get my image fed into AI engines. I don't want any of that stuff. I think it's just tasteless, and like Howard Stern is tasteless. He's known for being that way. He's known for looking for all of these opportunities to say incendiary things and talk shit, and he's obviously ignorant and likes to fearmonger, and he's not cool anymore, so he's bitter about that. And someone said if he weren't so damn insecure, he'd actually follow through on his regular threats to retire and quit finally, and we'd all be better off for it.
Yeah.
But I think broken clock can be right twice a day, and he recently called Prince Harry and Meghan Markle whiny bitches.
Well,
and I wholeheartely agree with that statement.
Yep.
So there's a silver lining.
Well,
from
you know,
Howard Stern.
You shoot enough, you're gonna hit at least a few baskets if you shoot enough times throughout the day. So it is what it is. But to me, it's just one of those things that I am more interested in, like what happens with because your social media life is now becoming more of who you are for a lot of people than your actual physical existence. There's whole swaths of people that seem to be more connected to who they are digitally than who they are in the physical world.
Which is why we should take Pop Culture Crisis to the radio waves.
Like,
that would go great.
That would.
Would you guys follow us to the radio?
That's I was like, that's like when this show started, I was like, well, I've got a face for radio, so that's perfect. It's but like I do wonder about that stuff, because I have friends and I know people just through like the skating community and just people in general who are very, very connected to their social media platforms, whether it's because they built a business on there or they built their own platform and they engage heavily with other people. like what that might become more important to a lot of them if they don't see a lot of people, or they feel less important in the real world than they do digitally. Then you might be more worried about how you come off, how your profiles come off after you pass and stuff like that.
I just don't like the idea of leaving something like that out there to be taken. Like, how many times have people, suddenly sent you a message about, like, you can get these cool sunglasses, and it's obviously like they've been hacked. Like, I hate the idea of like my hacked profile hanging around after I'm gone. And
selling people sunglasses.
Or giving them viruses, being used for nefarious purposes, or like having to be something that like your descendants have to take care of, like
fun.
They should just get like, ultimately they should all get deleted because they're liabilities and could become bots, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But
if I become like what is the headphones that they're always selling online? The
Beats?
Not Beats. They're
the Raycon.
If I end up like posthumously selling Raycon headphones, may God have mercy on my soul if that's where I end up. So just saying. Thanks for watching this clip, guys. If you want to see full episodes or follow us on social media, links are in the description below. Bye.